If you want to grow your business faster, you need to optimize for just one thing: feedback. Problem is, most feedback is useless at best and destructive at worst. Why? Because if you don't know how to ask for useful feedback, then often you will get information back that doesn't help and might actually be misleading. In today's video, what I'm going to cover is going to help you with what exactly feedback is, how to get the right kind, and who to ask. The examples and specifics I share today will be particularly useful to you if you're in what I call the business of becoming. This is where you're helping people with personal transformation, where they are coming home to themselves, learning how to listen to their own intuition and become the kind of person they actually want to be. I'm Geeta Nadkarni, and if you're new here, this video is part of an ongoing series that catalogs my own journey of becoming, because I want to find out, can I put my know-how, my knowledge, and my skills out on the internet and make it available to the public for next to nothing and still make enough to live on? If you want to learn from my mistakes as well as my successes in real time, you know what to do. What is feedback anyway? Now, in order to get good at receiving feedback, which is the important part, we're going to have to completely rewire our understanding of what the frick feedback actually is. Most people understand feedback, even if it's like really polite and stuff, to be what it is, which is criticism, which feels terrible. fMRI studies show that social pain, which includes criticism, exclusion, and rejection, often use the same pathways in our brain and our nervous system as physical pain. It actually feels bad and it creates this aversion. What ends up happening is we either completely avoid any situation where we might receive rejection or criticism, etc., or it feels terrible and we push it down and manifest physical symptoms. Neither outcome is a good one. So what can we do instead? So let's start with our first Jedi mind trick. The best feedback is about connection. I want you to think of it as a design tool that is meant to help you develop an actual relationship with the people that you are trying to help. Of course, in order for this to work, it needs to feel safe, not just to your mind, but to your body. So here's how we're going to frame it. So here's how I did it for myself. This is what worked for me. I think of myself as either a scientist or an alien. So if I were an alien and I knew nothing about humanity and my job was to come here and basically be an alien scientist, all I would be is deeply curious. My job is to just watch what's happening and then collect that data and come to conclusions. It's about discovering what's actually going on. And what this does is it safely locks your ego in a nice air-conditioned room with a Netflix binge on. So curiosity feels safe for the body because you're not trying to fight. You're not fleeing from a truth. You're just like, interesting. That's your response. The next piece is, who do you get feedback from? I've already covered this in a different video, so I'm not going to get into those same details here. One of the easiest and most psychologically safe ways to get feedback on a particular process is to use your methods on yourself. There's nobody else in the room, nobody else required. What you're looking for is to see what works, what doesn't, and what questions come up when the gaps are revealed. Be curious about your own experience, because not only are you that alien scientist, but you're also always client zero. What I'm inviting you to do is to get high on your own supply and then see what that does to your quality of life. And then you're going to be able to use all of that information, that real lived visceral experience, and then you're going to use what you discover to create content with and design your programs with and to use in any sales conversations that you happen to get on. Now let's talk about the really terrifying part of getting feedback. The ask feels terrible for several reasons. Number one, you're inviting judgment without boundaries. Number two, it feels terrible for the person on the other end because it forces them to figure out what the frick you actually want and how to give it to you in a way that feels okay socially. And number three, this just doesn't work for the process. You often get random or contradictory advice that, honestly, what the hell do you do with that? Here's what to do instead. Be really specific, and I'm going to talk you through exactly how this is going to work. In fact, you can use the following questions, the ones I'm going to share with you, to get evaluation on a pitch, on an idea for a product, perhaps, even on something you're trying to sell somebody. But we're not going to do it the regular way. And I'm going to tell you why in a second. I'm going to tell you a little story. What we're going to do is we're going to play a game. Yes, you and me. Once upon a time, back when I was in journalism, I had gotten the coolest assignment ever. I had to take a lap dance class for a piece that I was writing. I know, I had the best job. We had to pair up. One person had to do the lap dance and the other person had to be on the receiving end. Now, I had never in my entire life ever gotten a lap dance before. And I had no idea that it felt more vulnerable to be on the receiving end than to be the person taking off their clothes. And I would never have believed this or never have even understood how it felt if I had not experienced it. And this brings me to why I think we should do this feedback exercise that I'm about to share with you together in this video, is you want to experience it from all the different angles. Remember, your client zero. You want to know what it feels like to receive the question, not just to be the person asking it. You want to know, is it difficult to formulate an answer if it's phrased a particular way? This is what's going to teach you what part you need to tweak. And what does it feel like when you participate in the process? Like, what comes up for you subconsciously? These are all the things that you need to design for your specific clients, for the feedback that you're going to ask for. So you ready? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and then I want you to type your answers into the comments. Let's play. We're going to start with the clarity check. So here's what the question would be. What did you understand from this video? What were your biggest insights? Now I want you to pause and actually type out your answer. See what it feels like. Maybe you can keep a little notebook on the side that talks about what it felt like, whether it was easy to answer the question, whether you feel like it needed to be more specific. All of this is data for you. This is you using yourself as client zero for feedback. You see how this works? Number 2 deals with questions and objections. So the actual question would be, where did you get lost or confused or feel resistant? What did you want to argue with? One of my tips for asking this particular question, especially if you're doing it relationally in a conversation, or even if you're sending somebody an email and asking this question, is to say, I love a good objection. I actually love when you have a question that reveals a gap in my thinking, because it is honestly the best gift that you can give me. I'm the alien scientist. You're going to present to me a question that either reveals something that I didn't know, something I got wrong that I can correct and get better. So all of a sudden I've grown much, much faster thanks to you. You have shown me that the way that I'm putting an idea across, the way that I'm explaining something, a metaphor that I've used, isn't working for you, which forces me to come up with a different, more interesting, more simplified way, which again allows me to improve my work immediately. Such a gift. Try it. Like, see how you can ask for similar gifts from your audience. And I would love to have you answer this question, actually. So pause the video. What brought up resistance, or being like, hey, wait a minute, you just like happily glossed over this part. Like, tell me more about that. Do that. I'd love to hear it. Number 3 pertains to further development. So here you're going to ask the question, what ideas did it spark that may or may not be related? You'd be amazed at how often people will have ideas, but then not feel comfortable sharing them with you because, well, you were asking for a very specific kind of feedback, and this feels like play, right? It feels unrelated. So actually making space in a conversation to get unrelated ideas can actually lead to your best work. This is what emergence is all about. And that is a core philosophy that I've put in my program, which, and if you don't know what I'm talking about core philosophies, you need to watch this video. Here are a couple of other questions you could also ask. What did it make you think of? And any applications that you see for this that I'm not thinking of. Again, you're designing for these people. They might have better ideas than you could ever come up with, and they want you to create this. So why not ask? Number 4, actionality. I always want my work to be actionable. I don't want to blow somebody's mind and then have them be like, yeah, but I still don't know what to do. Here we're testing for that. If you could make one change as a result of this video, what would it be? So tell me in the comments. And you know what? I bet you any amount of money, your answer is going to help somebody else. And the last one, number 5, is mutualism. What opportunities does this create? I would never start with such a wide open question because it's going to paralyze people. But if they've already been thinking about the answer and they've already been participating in the process, now they might have ideas that will bubble to the surface. And what this might create is an opportunity for a collaboration. If you're in a coach-client relationship, they may not have thought of you as a collaborator. But now, because you've invited them to think in all these different ways, they might be like, hey, actually, I can see how we could create something together. And so what you're basically building in is an opportunity for mutualism. They might say, hey, I want to introduce you to this other person that you really remind me of, and I think you guys would get along great. Will that lead to business, or will it just be friendship? You just never know. But you want to leave room in your process for emergence, because most of the best ideas, the best innovations, the most joyful, meaningful, juicy work often comes from unexpected places. And that's what we want to build into our business. Okay, so did you play? I am so excited to read your answers and to either respond directly in a comment or to actually create a video that will answer something that you've brought up. Let's examine what just happened. We created a process and we did something together that is going to work, because if you follow this for your own clients and your own audience, it's telling people exactly how they can help you. You're making it easy for them to respond. You are learning faster and better. Most importantly, it turns feedback that once felt critical into a relationship building tool rather than a force of isolation. Now, this video has already gotten way longer than I intended. So if you want ideas for what to do with the feedback that you receive, I can make a whole other video for that. So if you want that, let me know. And if you want a deeper discussion and a chance to be coached by me, then consider joining the Clarity Collective. It's just $9 a month. And what I did was I included a bunch of templates that make the reach out process much easier. So it takes all the guesswork out. You can just go in there in 5 minutes, tweak it, and send it out. Because as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, the fastest hack, the 20% that creates 80% of your results when it comes to growth, is feedback. So if you want to spend just a few hours this week doing something that will actually move the needle, it is getting feedback. And if you want to make that easier, you have a bunch of different options. They're all in the description. Thank you so much for playing. I am now going to go ahead and read your comments. Service entrepreneurs are drowning in complexity. Everyone tells us to be everywhere, do everything, hustle harder. And if that works for you, awesome. But if you're looking for an alternative, then listen up. Because the truth of the matter is that 20% of your efforts actually drive 80% of your results.
Say what?
The problem is that no one's ever taught you how to identify the 20% that matters in your specific business. Now, if you're anything like me, you got into your business because you're exceptional at what you do.
That's true.
What you didn't want is to try and have to master 12 different marketing platforms, create endless content that no one actually sees, feel perpetually behind on your work no matter how many hours you put in.
I know, I'm literally exhausted.
You didn't sign up because you wanted to miss out on your children's childhoods, because every waking moment is spent obsessing about problems that will never be solved.
I really am fucking freaking out, so maybe you could give me a pill.
Fact of the matter is, most of those problems may not need to be solved, because you might need to focus on 20% further upstream that solves everything without having to work on everything individually. And that's what we're going to talk about today.
Mind's blown. You're welcome.
Because the problem is not your work ethic. It's that no one gave you a framework to decide what matters and what doesn't. And so for $9 a month, the Clarity Collective gives you that simple framework to cut through the noise and focus on what works for you specifically.
Yeah, baby, yeah!
Inside, you're going to find a clear, step-by-step framework to identify exactly which activities drive results in your business without the overwhelming complexity. And unlike most courses and coaching programs, I do not want to give you the BS comfort blankie of just do this and unicorns will fall from the sky. Because the truth of the matter is, your business is unique. And as I discovered the hard way when I went from being the Energizer Bunny to having undiagnosed chronic fatigue syndrome for 3 freaking years, what works, even for one individual, can change dramatically depending on what season of life you're in. So instead of telling you what to do, I invite you to learn how to think and how to distill your problem down to the 20% that actually needs solving, that makes everything else irrelevant or easy.
That's what I want.
I'm going to teach you how to find the signal in the noise and focus on what actually moves the needle. And if you want to have more, which is more freedom, more security, more impact, more fulfillment, while doing less draining busy work, then I invite you to join us in the Clarity Collective today. So below this video, you will find a written explanation of what your monthly subscription gives you access to. Once you click the button and enroll, you will receive an email, this is super important, that will give you our community agreement. You will need to sign this before you get access to our program, to our coursework, and to the community itself. Please read it carefully and abide by our guidelines so that you can get maximum momentum from this experience. I am so looking forward to answering your questions and helping you find your 20%. I'll see you on the other side.